Hi, very good morning and welcome. The reason for doing this video is just to share something with you very important about our system. Not just here in the UK or the United States, but it is obviously now a global problem. It's not really because of, if you look at how many countries that have actually declared themselves within a recession officially, you will see that there is more than 10 at the moment. And the ones that haven't declared themselves officially in recession are just cooking the books at this moment. They've told us here in the UK that we are reducing the cost of living by deflating the inflation, but the inflation hasn't deflated. They're saying it's under 4%, and they've brought it down from 12%. If you ask me, it's over 12%. I've always said this: we are not living in fair times in this present time. And what can I do at this point? Well, I can't do nothing on my own, but what I can do is keep bringing back things to people's attention, and hopefully the penny will drop, and collectively we can do something about this. Today you are about to see injustice, and you shouldn't expect anything else. And of course I'm talking about Julian Assange. He's going to lose his case, and here I am at 7:57 telling you this. The courtroom hasn't even opened, and for me it doesn't need to, because Julian Assange is going to be extradited to the US. And the reason for that is because there is a legal battle being fought to keep him here in the UK, because if he does get extradited to the United States, he's going to face 130 plus years in prison, which will be a death sentence. I'll just briefly mention something. The reason why he'll lose this case is because the foundation of the matters that are being talked about in this courtroom are not based on law, as they should be. And these judges are about to break the law, in fact, in what they're about to do, because they are not going to use the principles of law in order to decide the outcome of the case. They are going to act on orders which has overridden the law, and we have seen this time and time and time again. Julian Assange is accused of leaking thousands and tens of thousands of documents onto the internet, and what they're saying on mainstream and legacy media at the moment is people died as a result of that. And what they're saying is they had agents in other countries that was killed as a result of what he'd leaked out there. Well, for starters, if we start looking into the technicalities of this matters, those people shouldn't have been in that other country undercover in the first place. And it wasn't Julian Assange leaking the data, as a reporter should do and is entitled to, and as our national and international laws states that we are allowed to do in a democracy. Talk about whatever subject we wish and choose, and share information on any nature as and how we feel appropriate. But we're not. And that's why Julian Assange is going to be extradited in the next few days to the United States, to his peril. And of course, there are other important topics which we should talk about. It's not just Julian Assange's dire situation, where there is no hope of him winning. It's clear every stage of the legal proceedings that he's taken, every single time there has been a negative outcome for him, despite how good his lawyers were. Now, his lawyers are arguing today on the principles of law and upholding those principles of law. And that should be enough to secure him in this country if these judges that are listening to his case are good. I know already what they're going to do. When it comes to giving the verdict, they're going to sound like they are for Julian Assange, and he's going to get the right to stay in the UK. But as that verdict gets further into the nitty-gritty of things, they're going to start picking little bits here and there, and they will base their decision on not the facts, but on a driven agenda. And we know that. And what we need to do as decent human beings is understand that now the gloves are off. That these organisations that are running our worlds, that are causing misery for millions and billions now, are not on the defence of the general public, who they are so-called taken their positions to be public servants. They do not serve us, they serve the corporate world. So, you know, what else have we seen in the last few days? Well, we've seen Alexei Navalny be murdered in prison in Russia. And we've seen the legacy media jump all over this, pointing the finger at Putin. You are so bad for doing this. You've allowed this to take place in your country and you've murdered this person. You detained him without any cause or reason, giving him no trials or very little hope of justice. And now it has led to the death. Well, he's not the only one. There was another one in the Ukraine recently, another reporter that did this. It's happening way too much and on too many occasions now, all this behaviour. But what I'll say here is we've seen Joe Biden, we've seen Richie Sunak all come out and point the finger at Russia and Putin in particular and say that's why we're going after this guy, because he's bad. Whereas Richie Sunak is allowing his court and judicial system within the UK to behave like they are on this case with Julian Assange. It's propaganda, and we can clearly see it now. We know they lie. Yeah, let's face it. We all know they lie. Look at the Iraq war and the outcome. No weapons of mass destruction. Look at how the American governments and other governments around the world have changed now, and it has came out this week as well, the influence they've had on other countries' elections, to name one, Italy. Using this propaganda that they use on us. You know, look at not just the outcome of hundreds of thousands of people losing their life in Iraq. Look at what happened to our brothers and sisters that came back from that war that were injured. And look at those flags that was given to the mothers and parents of children that give their life in the Iraq war from our countries. Look at what these organisations like the United Nations have allowed to happen in Afghanistan last year when they pulled out like they did. I want to tell you something. They relied on over 50,000 Afghanistan interpreters to assist them in their operations whilst they was there occupying, Afghanistan. And when they pulled out like they did under the Biden administration, they left tens of thousands of these interpreters to basically be slaughtered by the Taliban. When they promised that these interpreters, for their bravery and putting their lives on the line, could have national citizen in the United States and other countries of their choice. And we let them down. Look at the fact that, the United States have vetoed, the ceasefire in Israel and Palestine at the moment, and in Gaza more particular. And look at the fact that over 4 months now we have seen, just on the horrific scale, 12,000 children die as a result of this genocide, which the world governments have chosen to turn a blind eye to. They wonder why the legacy media platform is deteriorating and crumbling before their very own eyes on just the few subjects that I've mentioned today in this video. And I don't need to take bets. You know what? It is a sad day for Julian Assange today. And there is nothing any of us at this present time, unless we go to Belmarsh prison and break him out and smuggle him off to somewhere in this world, you know, to keep him safe. There is nothing that will stop what is already decided before it got in court today. And you know, for Alexei Navalny's family, loved ones, my heart goes out to you. I'm very sorry that we live in a world like we do today. And for Julian Assange, you know, again, I'm deeply sorry for what you've had to do, for only trying to inform the general public. And then we've got Edward Snowden as well, who is another whistleblower that tried to tell people around the world, you know, what was actually going on. And I will just say this, it's clear that in all these incidences, one particular organisation has been at the seed, roots and grass level of all these incidents that I've mentioned. The CIA. Shame on you, and shame on everybody that works within that department, because you think you're keeping your people safe from the rest of the world. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, firsthand how good you are when you work for that department. You didn't stop Hamas, and you didn't notify Israel that they had or was just about to launch 5,000 missiles. This, by any means, is a big operation. But not only did the CIA fail, the MI5 failed, Mossad failed, all these intelligent gathering organisations around the world all failed with their satellites and everything to see that there was going to be a big scale attack or a launch of these missiles. And the reason why? It wasn't because the organisations didn't know, it was because they was not willing to stop it, because they wanted it to happen and they allowed it to happen. Simple. But the point of this video is to reiterate this with you guys, because you're living in very detrimental times right now. And that's said easy. That word just rolls straight off my mouth, because it's a lot worse than that. And we are seeing these things come about now much faster on a gathering pace. And that means that we are in treacherous times as even individuals that are not even caught up in any of these at the moment. If you think that in 80, 90 years the mentality of human beings and psychopaths have changed, you're wrong. And why do I mention that? Because in the late 1930s we saw the same behaviour from Nazis. Gathering information, destroying the freely transferring of information from people to people, and the freedoms and the democracies that happened along with that. And then we saw death camps being built. And you really need to think long and hard about that, because now it's not a problem that's contained to Europe and a particular behaviour of just one group of fascists. This is a global pandemic and a problem which we all as citizens face, and to do nothing about it is not going to resolve it. And that is what I want you to think about today. We've got truckers and farmers all over the world right now. Just do a search on YouTube at how many countries farmers are protesting over these green policies. Again, fabricated lies saying that CO2 is responsible for climate change. It's not. All the other major contributors to climate change haven't even been placed before you to judge. But they're more likely to change the climate. And I'm not denying that climate change is in actual taking place at the moment, because it is. And it's not because the human beings have brought this upon us. It's part of a natural process of the earth. I can just direct your attention, if you disbelieve me, to the Milankovitch cycle, the 100,000-year cycle where we go from glacial periods, which we're at the end of now and we've enjoyed for 12,000 years, to an interglacial. Go and look it up for yourself. You can look up any of these things that I've talked about in this video and you'll find that I'm telling the truth and that these are facts. And if you're hoping by just the very fact of hope that they'll change, they won't, because the people that are creating the destruction and the devastation around this world are in control. And they need to be removed. And there's only one way that that is going to take place, and that is by people being proactive about it. And I'm not kidding. Just watch today what happens in the case of Julian Assange. If the case is decided on today, we are more likely to see him extradited to the United States for being a reporter. Let's see if I'm right. And I don't mind if, I hope, I would love to be wrong on this. But I think we can all see that this case is not going to be decided on law as it should be, and on justice. This case has already been decided. And I bet you the verdict of those judges have already been written last night over a glass of brandy. That's the true reality that we're living in. We're living in a cancer culture right now where the people that are supposed to serve the public around the world are clearly serving themselves and their own agendas, and we know why that is. There's so much injustice around this world that, I bet you thought that there was a threat of a world war starting with other countries, but the real threat is that countries are going to start seeing within their boundaries, their borders, civil unrest. That will be the Third World War. It will be the general public of these nations and countries fighting against those people that call themselves rulers, presidents, prime ministers and leaders. That's where they're heading, and they're pushing us all. And it's just a matter of time. And they should really be worried and concerned about what they're doing, because there is a cut-off limit to anybody's point at which they will say, you know what, I've had enough. And as we see these unravel as fast a pace as what they are, you will know that people are already at that point. What do you do when you cannot afford to feed your family? What do you do when the wages and the salary that you were paid no longer have the limit within them to just make ends meet? You know what I'm talking about, a lot of you, because we're already there. There is no excess and surplus money anymore. It's all gone, and gone on the things that these corporations have driven up on the prices and made our life a misery as a result of that. I am sick and tired of speeches from these politicians where they make a case that they have the necessary mental capacity to understand our problems on one hand, but clearly do not do the right actions on the other. So they have the mental capacity to understand what is wrong they're doing, but they do not have the physical ability within them to act and resolve. And that's why we're seeing, not just one country and their farmers protest or truckers. We're seeing the whole of Europe erupt almost. We've had enough of these organisations. I've had enough of these organisations, and I bet you have had enough of these organisations. And I haven't even touched the surface of this ridiculous pandemic that we've all been part of. And now there is, obviously, and you can look up Dr. John Campbell, obviously a new disease, a new pathology that has came out on the back of this, which is now affecting people of all age groups and causing thrombosis, is what the coroners will write the death down as, but it's blood clots of a new pathology, which means that the blood clots are being caused by a new disease. You know, I recommend you go and have a look at what Dr. John Campbell is talking about on the YouTube at the moment. Well worth your time. The other thing now, just to end this, guys, is on a serious note as well. There isn't many platforms where you're being told all these truths. Not many at all. And we're all under attack because of the suppressive nature of this organisation wanting to spread their propaganda and lies. They want to silence people that are talking about their wrongs. Why do they want to do that? Because they're guilty. They know what they're doing is wrong, and what they're trying to do is cheat, just as they will today in Julian Assange's case. They won't use law to decide his matter, as they should do, because they're going to just use what they want to do. So you need to support channels like this, support websites like There, and you know, you should have been supporting Julian Assange with WikiLeaks, and you should be supporting people that are prepared to risk their lives and everything within their lives to come out and tell you the truth about these people and these organisations, like Edward Snowden and all the others. Because it's a sad time we're living in. People are dying now as a result of this, and people are being persecuted and punished. How can the world stand by at this point in time and watch what is taking place in Gaza? How can they do that? It's a sad time that we're all living in. And it's no wonder why people think that we are in end times, because it pretty much feels like that. You can support us, what we do here. I will tell you now, I've told you the truth already. October, we saw 75% of our funding disappear almost overnight. It was shocking. 75%. Think about that. So if you can help support us, and you know, we will continue our best to give you information on the pole shift, give you information on real news that is taking place and real matters that we should be focusing on, then there's a link down there and you can help support us. The only other thing to say is, you know, God be with Julian Assange and his legal team today, and let's hope that this is a matter decided on law. I think we know the truth, don't we? We're just waiting for, you know, what we all fear to happen. Okay. You know, you take care of your loved ones is the only thing I can say at this point in time. And God be with you all. So we usually do. Bye for now.